From the very first preseason test in Bahrain, it was clear something wasn't right at Mercedes. The team had a major problem: porpoising. The violent bouncing on the straights has slowed Mercedes down dramatically, leaving them behind Red Bull and Ferrari. Every lap, the car slammed into the track surface, shaking drivers inside the cockpit. And in Baku, it reached a breaking point. Lewis Hamilton was seen climbing out of the car in visible pain, struggling with severe back issues after enduring some of the worst bouncing of the season. The images quickly spread across the paddock. Suddenly, porpoising wasn't just a performance issue, it was a safety concern. Several teams began suggesting that the FIA needed to step in, worried about the physical toll it was taking on drivers. But this raised a bigger question. Why did Christian Horner become so critical of Mercedes? In Baku, Mercedes finished third and fourth, with George Russell ahead of Lewis Hamilton. But that result came largely thanks to Ferrari's double retirement. Despite the decent finish, Mercedes were suffering more than ever from porpoising. The bumpy street circuit made things worse, but it wasn't the only reason. To understand why Horner slammed Mercedes, we first need to understand what porpoising actually is. In 2022, Formula One introduced major regulation changes, bringing back ground effect cars. The floor of the car now plays a huge role in generating downforce. These new designs use something called Venturi tunnels, channels under the car that speed up airflow to suck the car closer to the track. But when that airflow gets disrupted, the car suddenly loses downforce. It rises. Then the airflow returns, and the car slams back down. This cycle repeats over and over again, creating the violent bouncing known as porpoising. Not only does it hurt performance, but it also makes the car incredibly uncomfortable and even painful to drive. Some critics believe Mercedes' extreme bouncing is linked to one bold design choice: the no side pod concept. During preseason testing in Spain, Mercedes secretly introduced a radically slim side pod design. When they arrived in Bahrain, they revealed it to the world. No other team had anything like it, and many believe this risky design may be the reason Mercedes are suffering more than anyone else. The porpoising on the Mercedes car has been the worst on the grid. It's robbed them of straight-line speed, something Red Bull, with almost no bouncing, has mastered. Even Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion with over 15 years of experience, admitted, "This is the worst characteristic I've ever experienced in a car." That statement alone showed just how serious the issue had become. Mercedes, once the dominant force of the turbo-hybrid era, had fallen to the third fastest team. After 7 races, they still hadn't won a single one, something almost unheard of in recent years. The team has 2 drivers, the experienced Lewis Hamilton and the rising star George Russell. Both are dealing with porpoising, but it's clear that Lewis has been suffering more. This likely comes down to setup. Throughout practice sessions, drivers can adjust things like ride height and suspension to find the best balance. While the cars are technically the same, their setups can be very different. But once qualifying begins, the cars enter parc fermé. From that point on, no major changes are allowed. This means teams must choose a setup that works both for qualifying speed and race comfort. Looking at the footage, it appears George Russell has found a better balance. His car bounces less than Lewis's. Interestingly, George is taller than Lewis, which should technically make the bouncing more painful for him due to higher forces on his spine and neck. But that hasn't been the case. Lewis has clearly been suffering more. Still, Russell admitted the problem hasn't been easy. He said he was really happy to see the race come to a close. In Baku, nearly every driver raised concerns about the physical impact of porpoising. back pain, neck strain, long-term health risks. Mercedes team boss Wolf confirmed that almost all drivers agreed it was a serious problem, with only Fernando Alonso disagreeing. The message was clear. Something had to change. If porpoising continues, drivers could eventually be forced to miss races due to pain and injury. What started as a technical issue had now become a threat to driver safety, and the pressure was building on the FIA to act. Even teams like McLaren, who have experienced some of the least porpoising on the grid, weren't completely unaffected. In Baku, Daniel Ricciardo admitted after the race, "I genuinely feel rattled." His comment suggested that the extreme bouncing may have been made worse by the unique nature of the Baku street circuit. Like most street tracks on the Formula One calendar, Baku is incredibly bumpy. This led some to believe that the porpoising problem was track-specific. But not everyone in the paddock agreed. One man in particular made his opinion very clear. Red Bull team boss Christian Horner.